me explain this concept to you. Let's say I wanted to go from here to the back door. The only thing in my way is air. Correct? Air is not providing a lot of resistance. I can go to the back door, nothing's in my way. But let's say I'm a bad church member and I haven't paid my tithes for 5 years. And we have the old school deacons who kept records and would hold people up to say, Brother Ross, you haven't paid your tithes. Oh, no. We need to have a word of prayer with you. So let's say I want to leave church and these deacons, they want to make sure, I'm giving God, I'm not trying to rob him. And 2 and 3 and 4 deacons are in my way to get into the back door. Now I have more resistance to get to the same place. So I'm going to take a lot longer to get to that back door because there's more resistance in my way. So resistance means something is stopping me, a red blood cell, from moving throughout your body. What's that top number mean again? What's the word? Resistance. Resistance. I want you to keep that in mind. The bottom number just means volume. Everybody say volume. Volume. Volume means that bottom number, how much fluid does your body have to move? Now think about this. If you have too much fluid to move, is that high volume or low volume? High volume. So guess what? Your bottom number, when you have too much fluid to move in the body, it's going to go high. When you have too much things in your way, your resistance will go high. So when I have too much volume, my bottom number goes up or down. When I have too much resistance, my top number goes up or down. So all 120 means is we have resistance over volume. Everybody say resistance, over volume. Over volume. If I have a problem with something in my way, is that resistance or volume? Resistance. If I have too much fluid to move, oh man, you got it. Okay? You just learned how and what hypertension is and how to control it. So let's talk about what these numbers mean when it comes to disease. The 120 over 80. So, when we talk about 120, that's the top number, correct? Yeah. All right, so let me ask you a tricky anatomical question. Did anybody here graduate junior high school? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, everybody did? Yeah. This question is really difficult. It might be tough for even a child to answer. What is the highest point of your body? What is the highest anatomical point of your body? Your hair. Your head. Right? Okay? The highest point of your body is your head. So, when we have a problem with the top number, resistance, you start to feel signs and symptoms in your head. Vision problems. Where's your eyes? Head. Nasal problems. Head. Where's your nose? Head. Mouth problems. Where's your mouth? The only organ most people think that's up in their head is their brain. But vision problems, nasal problems, mouth problems. I'm hearing a ringing in my ears. Where's your ears? So if you have those problems and you suffer from a top number hypertension, you get symptoms in your head. Does that make sense? So if I have a resistance problem, and my body's showing symptoms of that resistance problem, what part of my body will I find those symptoms? In your head. All right. When you're having a bottom problem, okay, what is the, and I put this one up there to, I had to put this up after Valentine's Day passed. To help the wallet of most of our brethren. What is the lowest part of your body anatomically? It's called your feet. All right? So, when I have a problem with the bottom number, guess which part of my body starts to show symptoms? Your feet. Because that's a you got it? So, I have a headache. Is that a resistance or a volume problem? Resistance. Is that a problem with the systolic or the diastolic? Systolic. Is the top number going to go up or the bottom number going to go up? Top number, you got it. If I have a problem with swelling of my feet, is that a resistance problem or a volume problem? Volume. Which number is going up, the top number or the bottom number? Oh my. I think you've got it, but I don't think you believe me. So here's the other thing. What's the anatomical thing in the middle of your body that most people worry about if it's beating or not? What's it called? The heart. Can I show you how intelligent God was? And still is? Yes. Let me tell you something. When you have heart problems connected with head problems, that's a blood pressure problem. That's resistance or volume? Resistance. When you have heart symptoms and head symptoms, the problem is a systolic problem, a resistance problem. When you have heart problems and feet symptoms, is that a resistance or a volume problem? Oh my. Y'all are sounding like endocrinologists. It can't be this easy. It really is. But I want you to get this principle because it's going to come into very important effect as we go on to this. So, when you have feet swelling, is that a resistance or a volume problem? Is the top number going up or the bottom number going up? If my heart hurts and I have feet swelling, is that a volume issue or a resistance issue? Devil, are you hearing this? We are some smart people. Do you know what I just taught you most doctors don't even know? I'm glad y'all ain't streaming this. Did you hear what I just said? Most doctors who practice medicine today have no clue about what I just said. And you'll see that later now that you understand resistance versus volume. So we're going to put this all together into the first 5 letters of the alphabet. Let me give a little bit of review. And then I'm going to show you the A, B, C, D, E rule. All right? So if I have a problem with the top number, is that a resistance problem or a volume problem? Resistance. If I have a headache, is that a resistance problem or a volume problem? Resistance. If I have a headache and heart symptoms, is my top number going up or my bottom number going up? If I have a heart symptoms and feet swelling, is that a resistance or a volume problem? If I have a heart problem, head problem, and feet problem, well, here we go. Is that a resistance or a volume problem? Did y'all hear what you just said? You understand, based upon the signs and the symptoms, what's wrong with the blood pressure. Just by looking and knowing the anatomy of the body. So, everybody hold up your left hand. Your left hand, the other left. Okay. We're going to go through the first letters of the alphabet, okay? First letter is what? A. Second letter? B. Next letter? B. Next letter? B. Last letter? A. So let's go over this again. A, B, C, D, E. You know what I just taught you? I just taught you all the classes of blood pressure medications used to treat a resistance problem or a volume problem. Are you got it? No, you're not. You don't even know what I'm saying. So let me show you what I mean. Okay? Here is the A, B, C, D, E rule. Here it is. Blood pressure medications that control resistance problem, 90%. What number did I say? 90% of them tend to begin with A or B. Or they're in classes of A or B. They're called alpha blockers or beta blockers or some sort of combination of that. So, A, B medications, do they control resistance or do they control volume? Resistance. They control resistance, right? Guess what? The medicines that control volume medications. Calcium channel blockers, diuretic, that pill that makes you urinate. So, let me go over this, because this is going to blow your mind away what you just learned.
Wow.
If I use an AB medication, am I trying to help a person control their resistance or their volume? If I use a CD medication, am I trying to help that person control their resistance or their volume? You got it, okay? Now, what is the E? Here's the E. And this is where the health message and spirituality comes in. If a doctor's trying to control your resistance and volume problem, and they put you on every single medication trying to control the two, but an extra thing is not added, which we'll learn about later, you're going to end up in the ER. Because you have symptoms of resistance or symptoms of a volume problem. Does everybody have it? Top number is resistance or volume? Bottom number is resistance or volume? The classes of medications that control resistance, are they A, B, or C, D? A. The classes of medications that control volume problems, are they A, B, or C, D?
C, D.
Ooh, all right. You ready to see how smart you are? Why you're all A students? So we're going to give you a test to see if you actually learn resistance or volume. All right? So here's the first question. Question. Now listen to me carefully. I only want one answer. I don't want any of you in this room thinking you're smarter than me. I have 2 doctorates. That's a lot of work. So don't any of you dare tell me, dare speak to me in confidence, because I've got a lot of schooling behind my name. All right, you got it? All right, we won't have anybody acting up. So here it is. I want you to tell me, is this only a resistance or a volume problem? Is that understood? Number 1, is that a resistance or a volume problem?
Resistance.
All right, we're good so far. Number 2, is that a resistance or a volume problem? Number 3, is that a resistance or a volume problem? Wait.
Give us one or the other. I'm going to say resistance. I did. I said resistance.
How many doctorates do I have?
2.
2. You all have the nerve to tell me that this last one here is a resistance and volume problem? Are you sure about that? You gonna challenge me? Let me tell you something, I'm messing with you. You're absolutely right. It doesn't matter who is telling you what if you don't understand basic physiology. Even though the question said, is this a resistance or a volume problem, you understood that when you saw that, no, this is both. That means that you understand. I can do it almost. Okay, so here's the next question. Which blood pressure should I lower by using a water pill? If you hear water pill, is that a resistance problem or a volume problem?
Volume.
Okay, so number 1,
No.
you're going to use a water pill there.
No.
Number 2, are you going to use a water pill there?
Yes.
Number 3, are you going to use a water pill there?
No.
Okay, so here's my question for you. Why is it that doctors look at numbers and they give you a resistance medication for a volume problem?
Mercy.
That's part of the reason why. Do you know the number 1 killer of Americans is heart disease? Hypertension is one of the top 2. And what you just learned, most people do in practice every day, and because their patients are ignorant of what's wrong with them and what they're being prescribed, they keep taking water pills for a resistance problem and have a stroke. We ain't done. Which blood pressure should I use by using a beta blocker? That's a B group medication. So am I trying to control resistance or volume? Resistance. Number 1, will a beta blocker do anything for this? Number 2, will a beta blocker do anything for this? Why? It's a volume problem. Are you listening to yourself? If we had some, gotta be careful. Oh, we're not on camera, so I could say this. If we had some Europeans in here, they would say, "Hi, Charlie, those African Americans are quite intelligent. They know about resistance and volume. Betty." Are you going to use a beta blocker here?
Yes.
Yes. But are you only going to use a beta blocker there?
No.
It's not even part of the question.
Dr. Harris?
But you already saw the answer. Is this making sense? Oh. Now I'm having a resistance problem. the thing went off. I don't know what happened. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so anybody know how to fix this? Okay. There we go. Okay. Are we back on? No, it's not moving. Is this making sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, wait till we get to what our issue is, and then it's really going to make sense. Okay, here we go. All right, so, oops. All right, so here's the next one. Which blood pressure might require a water pill and beta blocker to control it? So, first of all, do I have a look at that? Y'all telling before I could even, let me show you. When students really learn and understand a principle and a concept, you don't have to wait for somebody to spoon feed you and tell you what it is. All of the blood pressure medications that I talked about, all of what you learn, listen to this, will solve 90% of blood pressure problems. But there's not only medication. We'll get to that in a second. So here's the thing. Which blood pressure patient comes into your office, and the question is, which one will require a water pill and a beta blocker to control it? So here's what we're saying. If I need a water pill and a beta blocker, do I have a resistance problem or a volume problem?
Oh.
Y'all seem to forget I'm the one with two doctorates. You're absolutely right. I'm not egocentric, arrogant, and all this stuff. I'm just having fun with y'all. Don't you hate it? You go to a doctor, he don't even look you in the eye and treat you like you ain't nothing, like you don't know nothing, write you a script and turn around and send you on your way? Those days will stop. You want to go into your doctor's office and say, "I have a resistance problem." Why you got me on a water pill? Where'd you learn that? Some guy named Dr. Colin Ross from San Diego. So, okay, which one do I need a beta blocker and a water pill to control it?
Number 3.
Which one? How many of you say 3? Let me show you the next problem that happens. Patient comes to the doctor's office, has a blood pressure problem. They don't even look at the numbers. They automatically write you something. The blood pressure is telling you what the problem is. So you have to leave if you're with 2 medications, not 1, because you have a resistance and a volume problem. Does that make sense with the medications? Now we're going to go to the lifestyle. So how does lifestyle and hypertension play into it? Y'all ever heard this thing, don't eat too much salt? Now look, I'm going to tell you why. Don't you? You know what bothers me? People tell, don't do this. Even Adventists, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And you know what used to make my elders mad? I'd ask them why. Don't do this, don't do that. Why? I don't know. It was just told to me. How many of you were told, don't eat too much salt?
Yeah.
And you don't even know there's 2 types of salt. But here's the issue. When you eat a lot of salt, now you're going to see why this recommended more than 2,000 milligrams total a day of sodium. Sodium causes your body to retain fluid. So if you're eating a lot of salt, you've got a Volume problem. That's why when you eat too much salt, you retain fluids. So if you eat too much salt, you're retaining fluids. Where is the symptom going to present? In the feet. Now here's what people tell you. Doc, everything I eat, it says no salt. And I don't put salt on my food. Well, guess what? If your feet and ankles are swelling and you're not putting a lot of salt on your food, take a while, guess what's happening? It's not just prepackaged. She's absolutely right. Let's give her a round of applause. She came here and did a Superman. Changed from her pajamas to the we appreciate her. But folks, when your feet are swelling, it's because we are eating. Y'all ever heard of Loma Linda Foods?
Yeah. Mercy. Mercy. Get on, Doc. Get on.
Let me clarify. You know what makes most Adventists mad when I do these presentations? When I keep reminding them, you're not going to go to hell for eating too much salt. The blood was shed for you. You might die early because you ate too much salt and never fulfilled the purpose that God has for you. They never hear that part. You should, man, you know what? Sometimes I should share the emails that I get from people. Doc, you said, no, I don't believe that. I think if I do this, or people, no, first of all, they always think it's other people doing it, never them. If I do this, yeah, people know. You can't tell people that. You got to tell the people if they eat too much salt. Ellen White said. And you know, I'm an investigator. I investigate a lot of stuff that Ellen White said. And some of it was personal recommendations. I eat 2 meals a day. You actually had a conference official. You can't go around telling the people to eat 3 meals a day. Ellen White ate 2 meals a day. I said, okay, so connect that to the bloodshed on the cross for a wretch like me. Where does eating 2 meals a day come into my salvation? By the way, Pastor, sumo wrestlers eat 2 meals a day. Are they going to heaven? Well, I don't know if they keep the Sabbath. The other thing I want to tell you about feet and ankle swelling, not only do you eat less salt, less processed food, remember, this is not a heaven or hell issue, this is a health issue. I'm trying to keep you off the wrong list of statistics. Walk 15 minutes a day. When you walk, it gets the fluid flowing and helps get some of that swelling out of your feet. Okay? Don't wear those expensive pantyhose. Doctors, the doctor told me to wear compression stockings. My insurance company doesn't cover it. Oh no, just go in the ladies' aisle at Walgreens and buy the extra small. It's the same thing. Anyway, all right. It's almost 9. So, how does excessive cholesterol affect my resistance or volume? Thank you. First of all, if cholesterol is building up in my arteries, isn't that narrowing my arteries? So if I'm narrowing my arteries, does that have anything to do with volume? Or does it have to do with resistance?
Resistance.
If cholesterol is building up in my arteries, it has to do with resistance.
Yep.
Sometimes your blood pressure is an indication of what the problem with your cholesterol is. So here's the other thing. I'm going to treat your blood pressure, but they never looked at your cholesterol. That could have been the problem. But let's move on. Oh, here we go. Adventists love this part. Because now we get to talk about the coffee, the cigarettes, and the Hennessy. I had to change that slide because, too many saints came from the world, and when they heard Hennessy, it gave them some flashbacks. They started going clubbing again. So I put Smirnoff. because none of y'all ain't Russian. Coffee is a vasoconstrictor. So coffee causes your blood vessels to constrict. Is that a resistance or a volume problem? Resistance problem. If I keep drinking too much caffeine, too much coffee. By the way, I have a lecture on energy drinks. There are some natural combinations that give you the same effect as coffee. And guess where I found them? Right there in the Bible. There's some advice God gave us. It's too bad that a lot of our doctors that go to our schools don't learn how to study theology, because there's a lot of stuff God put in there that gives us advice on how to live and how to live more abundantly. But here's the thing. Coffee is a vasoconstrictor, so you got a resistance problem. Most people drink coffee and smoke cigarettes, which is another vasoconstrictor. So, can I ask you a question? What disease do you think most people who have to have a smoke and have to drink coffee in the morning suffer from? Stroke or swollen feet and ankles? Stroke. The number one leading factor of stroke is caffeine consumption and cigarettes. And by the way, those energy drinks that these kids are drinking now, it's increasing their risk of stroke.
Oh my Lord.
Because it's a resistance problem. Alcohol, your body can't clear it. So it has a diuretic in it. But alcohol causes your body to retain fluids. So guess what? The person who drinks and smokes caffeine and alcohol products is increasing their resistance or their volume. Which one?
If
Both.
they're doing, yeah.
Who said it? Both.
Yeah.
I hear a health message in there somewhere. If you're telling people how to live, they're more receptive because they don't understand some of the things that they're doing. Let's rush on. I see some of y'all. So there's not only there's positive. Remember I told you salt is sodium and that's what causes fluid retention? And I got to be careful with this, especially when I speak to Adventists. I have to quantify things. Bananas have 450 milligrams of potassium in one ripe banana. Potassium is a natural diuretic. Hey, does that sound familiar? So if I have a volume blood pressure problem, could you tell me a fruit that I could eat or should eat every day to help keep my volume problem down? It's called a banana. But let me tell you what happened when I gave this advice one time. You know, Adventists, man, if one banana's good, I'll eat 10. That'll be great. Go to any zoo. By the monkey cage.
Oh, no.
Look on the ground. When monkeys eat all those bananas, they poop all day long. So here's what happens to typical Adventists. Instead of eating one banana, they eat 10 bananas, and now their blood pressure dropped, but they got diarrhea. One banana a day, 450 milligrams of potassium. Let me rush on. Okay. How can regular exercise affect my 120/80? Here's the thing with exercise. Throw away those pedometers. I got my 50 steps in. You know what the problem with that is? You're not sweating. Hey, if you're sweating and losing salt, if you're sweating and losing salt, is that a resistance problem you're fixing or a volume problem you're fixing? Volume problem. So what exercise does is it helps you to get out some of that salt so that you can. I put this is Keith Sweat. I don't know, the reason why I put that slide up there is because I see people going to the gym trying to look cool and nice. They got on their little spandex and all this stuff, and they don't break a sweat. I don't know if they're trying to date or what have you, but when you go to the gym, you must break a sweat to get advantage of sweating out all that salt. Oxygen, when you exercise, You must get your oxygen capacity up. Here's why. Oxygen relaxes your arteries. And if oxygen relaxes your arteries, are you affecting your resistance or your volume?
Resistance.
Your resistance. Is it raising it or dropping it? So here's what exercise does. You're sweating out the salt. You're getting more oxygen. So are you helping improve your resistance or your volume or both?
Both.
Both. And this is why exercise has to be on a regular basis. It just can't be every once in a while. And there are ways to do exercise. That's a whole another lecture for another day. So pulse. How does pulse affect our resistance volume equation? Let me skip through this because it's getting late. When your body builds up speed and those red cells are moving, your pulse has gone up. Do you know that increased pulse breaks those cholesterol plaques so that they don't build up? Wow. So the increased pulse is another factor that helps improve your resistance. All right. What more about my pulse? Your pulse will tell you about what products you're using and also your personality. If you're using stimulants, you'll have a high pulse. If you're more type A, you will tend to have a high pulse. If you're type B, you'll tend to have a lower pulse. But here's the thing. You have to fluctuate between these two types to get a balance of your resistance. Let me skip this, and what I will do, let me end with this one, because let me go back to, okay. So what we will do is tomorrow, we'll pick up with this one, the mental health, and how it specifically, hypertension, now that you understand resistance over volume, how it affects our blood pressure, but then you'll learn specifically what is that factor. And by the way, when I touch this part on mental health, one of the things I know one of the problems in our community is you have African blacks, you have American blacks, you have West Indian blacks, and you have Spanish blacks. And there are things that have been told about one group versus the other. Am I talking the truth?
Yes, sir.
That keeps us more divided than working together. But the one thing that does keep us together is our problem with blood pressure. And I'll go into that tomorrow. So I want to end with this. I always want to end on a note from the Bible. The Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Ephesians 4 and verse 26. What in the world is the Bible talking about? Well, let me tell you what happens at nighttime when the moon shows up. The moon causes a relaxation of the earth. It causes a relaxation of your arteries. The other thing the moon does is the tide flow is less and not more. So the moon causes relaxation of your arteries, and it causes a decrease of volume returning to your heart. So when the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath, God put an anti-stroke mechanism in our body that kicks in by just letting the moon come up. It causes less blood flow return, and it causes a relaxation of the arteries. But the only thing that can override God's anti-stroke mechanism is anger. And so the person who goes to bed at night angry, that is a sacred time when God is trying to protect you from having a fatal event. Yeah. Most strokes, look at it, in the ER occur early in the morning. Most people are on their cell phone. They were arguing with somebody. By the way, you're not going to settle arguments at 10 p.m. at night. Okay. You have to get to the place. There's another thing we talk about with sleep hygiene, and this is this, for you and your kids. No cell phone, half an hour before you go to bed. No arguments, half an hour before you go to bed. For you married people, oh, I'm one. Settle your stuff in the mornings,
Okay.
but don't bring that stuff into your bedroom.
Okay.
Somebody's going to have a stroke. Here's what I'm saying. The person who's mad is the one who's at highest risk. Do not let anyone pull you into their strokes.
All right. All right.
The reason why God said this was, He didn't want you to, He said this even before we had the statistics on stroke. He literally put that moon up there to teach us not to fight, because you're not hurting other people, you're hurting yourself. And I want you to make it to the next day where you can be a great representative of me. So I'm going to end there tonight. Tomorrow we'll do a quick review. I'm going to start and end with this slide when we touch mental health and about your blood pressure. Let me go over a quick review. Top number, is that resistance or volume?
Resistance.
Bottom number?
Volume.
The medicines that control resistance are? The medicines that control volume are? If I eat too much salt, I'm absorbing too much fluid. Am I going to have swollen feet or a headache? Okay, if I drink coffee, a lot of coffee, smoke cigarettes, and that's vasoconstricting my blood vessels, am I going to have more headaches or swollen feet? Headaches. Okay, if I have a resistance problem and a volume problem, and I need to be put on medication, will it be one med or two meds? Two meds. If I go to bed angry every night, is that creating a resistance or a volume problem? It's actually creating both.
Yeah.
Both problems. Am I higher risk or less risk of stroke? If I get that stroke, is it going to occur while I'm arguing or early in the morning? Folks, you know what I just taught you? Internal medicine, endocrinology, psychiatry, which you will get more of tomorrow, in resistance, volume, and don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Ain't God good?
All the time.
That's not me. When you tap into one who's more intelligent than you, you learn how to talk like you have intelligence, but you learn to give the credit to the right place.
Amen.
That's what I'm all about. Thank you, Pastor,
Amen.
for opening up the church. Thank you
Amen.
for coming out from your pajamas. God will bless you in ways that you haven't seen. You did a good thing for God, and thank you all for coming out tonight and listening. Resistance Volume will continue part 2 tomorrow.